He had buried his daughter 10 years ago. Or so he thought. As billionaire Alan Royce stepped out of his armored car into the storm, a trembling homeless black boy blocked his path. Soaked, shivering, eyes filled with something deeper than fear, he whispered, "Your daughter is alive." Alan's heart stopped. The world around him vanished. The boy clutched a tattered photo in his hand, one Alan hadn't seen in a decade. It was her. His daughter. And she looked alive. Alan Royce had everything money could buy: private jets, ocean view estates, and a name that opened every door. But none of it could fill the void that had hollowed him out the day his 6-year-old daughter, Emily, disappeared. The police said she drowned in a boating accident. No body was found, but her small shoe washed ashore. That was enough for the world to move on. Except Alan never truly did. Tonight, the city lights blurred behind sheets of rain as his limo pulled up outside a luxury hotel hosting yet another charity event in his name. He didn't want to go in. He didn't want to smile, shake hands, or pretend he still had something called a heart. The door opened. A chill struck him. "Then, sir," the driver asked. But Alan wasn't looking at the hotel. He was looking at a boy. Barefoot, wrapped in a garbage bag, no older than 11, the black boy stood directly in the rain, staring at him with wide, piercing eyes. Not begging. Not moving. Just watching. Annoyed, Alan stepped out with a sigh. "Kid, get out of the way, your daughter is alive," the boy said, voice raw and steady. Alan froze. The umbrella slipped from the driver's hand. The words echoed in Alan's chest like a scream. "What did you just say?" Alan asked, suddenly cold despite the summer rain. "She's not dead," the boy whispered. "I know where she is. But they'll kill her if they find out I told you." Alan's world tilted. The blood drained from his face. "What the hell is this?" he snapped, but his voice cracked. "Who are you?" The boy reached into a hole in his hoodie and pulled out a photograph, crumpled, old, water-stained. Alan yanked it from his hand. His breath caught. It was Emily. A photo he never released to the public. Taken inside her bedroom, with her favorite doll. One only he and his late wife knew about. "How do you have this?" Alan asked, voice shaking. "She gave it to me," the boy replied, eyes darting toward the shadows. "But I can't talk here. They're watching me." Alan had faced mergers worth billions. Negotiated with presidents. But right now, he couldn't feel his hands. "Tell me everything," he said. But the boy took a step back, eyes wide. "Not here. If you want the truth, come alone. Midnight. Under the bridge by 7th and Layton." Then he ran. Alan stood motionless, rain soaking through his suit, the photo trembling in his hand. Could it be true? Was his daughter still alive? At 11:59 p.m., Alan Royce waited under the crumbling bridge at 7th and Layton, his luxury car hidden 2 blocks away. The air smelled of oil, rust, and secrets. Rain still fell, now softer, like the sky was whispering warnings. He glanced at his watch again. Midnight. Then he heard the footsteps. The boy emerged from the shadows, no umbrella, no shoes, face bruised and cautious. But this time, Alan noticed something more: scars. Thin, dark lines ran along the boy's forearms, half-healed. The kind only street kids carried. "You came," the boy said. "Most people don't listen." "I'm not most people," Alan said coldly. "You have 30 seconds to explain before I call the police." The boy's gaze didn't flinch. "They won't help. Some of them are part of it." Alan's stomach twisted. "Part of what?" The boy took a deep breath, then spoke quickly. "Your daughter didn't drown. She was taken by a group that sells children. Rich clients. Private auctions. I was one of them too. That's how I met her." Alan staggered back like he'd been punched. "You're lying." "I wish I was," the boy said. "Her name is Emily, right? She used to hum that song, something about stars and lullabies. She still does, every night." Alan's eyes filled with tears. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Emily's favorite lullaby. Where is she? Alan demanded. They moved her, the boy said. But I heard the men talk. She's still alive. Locked in a mansion outside the city. They say she's the most valuable one. Why tell me this now? Alan asked, his voice cracking. Because she saved me, the boy whispered. When they beat me, she cleaned my wounds. When I wanted to jump from the top floor, she made me promise to hold on. She said, one day, my daddy will come. Alan's knees nearly gave out. She never stopped believing, the boy added, voice breaking. Alan gripped the boy's shoulder. Can you take me to her? The boy shook his head. They'll kill her if I try. But there's a man named Silas. He runs everything. A fake orphanage on the outside, monsters behind the doors. He wears a ring with a red cross. Find him, and you'll find her. Alan's voice dropped to a whisper. I'm going to burn it all to the ground. The next 24 hours were a blur of fury, silence, and strategy. Alan Royce had built a tech empire with quiet precision, but now he was using that same power to wage war. He didn't call the police, he called Clay Harper, a retired intelligence operative who owed him a favor. By nightfall, they had tapped street cams, hacked records, and tracked every registered charity connected to the name Silas. The mansion came up quickly. A remote estate just beyond city limits, listed under a shell corporation and falsely marked as a special care facility for orphans with trauma. Clay's drone footage showed tall walls, armed guards, and no sign of children ever coming or going. Inside that house could be Emily. Clay advised caution. Alan didn't care. He was already in his armored SUV before dawn. They arrived just before sunrise. A thick fog rolled over the grass, muffling every footstep. Clay handled the perimeter while Alan entered through the side. Every step he took inside the mansion felt like walking through a nightmare. Silence. Then muffled sobs. A hallway of locked doors, like cells. Alan's heart pounded. He found the ring of keys. One by one, he unlocked each door. Some were empty. Some weren't. Frightened children blinked at him in confusion, fear etched into their tiny faces. And then, he opened the last door. She sat cross-legged on the floor, hugging a worn-out doll with one missing eye. The same doll from the photo. She looked up, her eyes cautious but bright. Emily. Alan whispered. The little girl stood slowly. Are you my daddy? He dropped to his knees, tears streaming. Yes, baby. Yes. I'm here. Her voice cracked. I knew you'd come. Alan wrapped his arms around her and sobbed. 10 years of grief, guilt, and hopelessness poured out in seconds. But suddenly, boom. A gunshot. Clay's voice yelled from down the hall, go. They're coming. Alan grabbed Emily's hand. Sirens howled in the distance, Clay had triggered the signal. The guards burst in, but too late. Alan and Emily slipped through the back with Clay, escaping through the woods. By the time police raided the property, most of the men had vanished. But inside, they found enough evidence, hard drives, documents, underground tunnels, to expose an international child trafficking ring. And at the center of it, a Red Cross ring left behind on a nightstand. 2 months later, the Royce mansion was no longer a quiet fortress of grief, it was alive again. Emily's laughter echoed through the halls like sunlight through broken clouds. Therapy sessions filled her mornings, coloring books and piano keys her afternoons. Slowly, joy returned to a place that had forgotten how to feel. Alan Royce resigned from his company. The man once obsessed with power had found something more valuable, purpose. He funneled his fortune into building a nonprofit called Project Haven, aimed at rescuing and rehabilitating trafficked children. With Clay as head of operations, and top legal teams on standby, they coordinated international raids, cracked encrypted networks, and reunited families. What began as a father's desperate mission turned into a movement. But Alan never forgot the boy who had changed everything. Malik, the homeless child who risked his life to speak the truth. Alan searched every shelter, every alley, until one day, a quiet knock came at the Royce gate. It was Malik. His hoodie torn, but his eyes steady. "You came back," Alan said. "You kept your promise," Malik replied, smiling shyly. "You saved her." Alan stepped forward. "You saved her first." That night, Malik sat at their dinner table, his first real meal in months, beside Emily, who treated him like the brother she never had. Alan made a decision. He adopted Malik. Not out of pity. Out of honor. Malik had shown a billionaire how to be human again. The press called it the miracle under the bridge. Alan refused interviews. The real miracle, he said, wasn't finding Emily, it was a broken boy's bravery. Weeks later, Emily stood before a crowd at Project Haven's launch. Her voice was soft, but strong. "My daddy saved me. But someone had to believe I was worth saving first." That was Malik. Never ignore someone just because they look small, or poor, or broken. Sometimes, they're carrying the biggest truth of all. The crowd rose in tears and applause. Alan watched them from the side, hand resting on both his children's shoulders. This wasn't a rescue story. It was a rebirth.